Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind. My name is Camel, and today we'll be taking a long overdue look at all of the Easter eggs and secrets that can be found within Morrowind's first expansion, Tribunal. A stunning addition to the game, adding new factions, quests, enemies, cities, and ancient civilizations to explore and uncover, and a king and gods to brush shoulders with. Now, you did hear correctly, there is a bunch of secrets in this video that aren't strictly Easter eggs, but you will find equally as interesting, if not more so. Now, timestamps for each secret and Easter egg in this video can be found down in the description and in the comments. Now, down there in the old description, you can also find all of my social media links. Be sure to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and be sure to join our brand new Discord server. Also, be sure to check out my other Easter egg videos that I've already done. They can be found via the playlist, which is linked down below in the description. You'll really enjoy them. With all of that said and done, let's get into Tribunal. And I wouldn't mind getting into one of the Tribunal. Vivek, of course, you dirty bastards. So, Morrowind's Tribunal expansion saw the introduction of a new alloy to the Elder Scrolls universe that we haven't seen since, that being Adamantium. Now, Adamantium is a fictional metal, first mentioned in the 1956 movie Forbidden Planet. However, it was then popularized in 1969 with the Marvel Comics Avengers number 66, with Adamantium being part of the character Ultron's outer shell. Now, in the stories which the alloy Adamantium appears, its defining quality is its indestructibility. Now, Adamantium is also the alloy that the X-Men character Wolverine's skeleton is made from, which is probably what it is most well known for in current modern pop culture. Well, here it is once again, making its first and last appearance, to date anyway, in the Elder Scrolls. In the subterranean labyrinth of Old Mournhold, we can find a lich known as Gedna Relvel. She is responsible for the Crimson Plague that, well, plagues the land. Now, what's interesting about her is she has some very strange scripting that makes her one of the toughest enemies to kill in the game. She has a script that sets her maximum health to 800 times the player character's level. Now, the maximum level in Morrowind is 78, without the use of cheats of course, and if you encounter her at this endgame level, her health pool will be 78 times 800, which is 62,400. Now, this is huge. For comparison, the living tribunal goddess Almalexia has a maximum health of 3,000. So this lich, Gedna Relvel, can potentially have over 20 times the health of a god. As mentioned, this makes her one of the hardest characters in the game to kill. I mean, the most damaging item in the game of Morrowind, including all of its expansions, is the Ebony Arrow of Slaying that deals 5,000 damage, which would only dent her health. So despite how she's looking, she's actually pretty healthy. Now within the city of Mournhold's most western district, Godsreach, we can find the house of one Ignatius Flaccus. Inside we'll find an empty homestead. Even if we make our way to the basement, there is no sign of life. But behind the door at the back we can find our man.
Welcome to the Robot Arena.
The Imperial himself, the owner of the Robot Arena, Ignatius Flaccus. Now, we will see that behind the magical barrier within the room, there are broken Dwemer animunculi, or robots for the layman. It's a weird scene, but sure, let's not let that oddity become a spanner in the cogs. Now, upon speaking with Ignatius, whatever this guy's stupid name is, he'll give us a quest called Dwemer Warbots, in which we have to collect specific Dwemer scrap pieces so that he may repair his Dwemer Warbots. Upon completing the quest and returning to him, we may actually bet on a robot battle. Now, this whole scene and concept of Dwemer Warbots battling for human entertainment is an allusion to the British TV show called Robot Wars, which originally ran from the late 90s to the early thousands, in which, as you may have guessed, contestants built robots which then battled to the death within an arena for human entertainment and sport, just as the Dwemer Warbots do here in Tamriel. Now, building off of this character, Ignatius Flaccus, he actually has an invisible house on mainland Vvardenfell. If you don't know, the base game of Morrowind takes place on an island called Vvardenfell, which is actually only like a quarter of the whole province of Morrowind. Anyway, in the outer skirts of the imperial settlement of Pelagiad, found in the northwestern foothills of the Ascadian Isles region, lies this guy's second house. Now, because the house is invisible and the doors only work when exiting the house, there is no way of knowing that it's actually here. However, if we open up the console and enter the console command COC, which stands for Center on Cell, a cell being an area of the game, just like this throne room here, this is a cell within the game. Each cell has an ID, and we can use the COC and the cell ID to teleport to that particular cell. So we need to open the console and type COC, that being Center on Cell, Pelagiad Ignatius Flaccus's house. Upon hitting enter, we will be transported to this cell, which, as we can see, is a tiny imperial-style home, with a stack of gold and some Dwemer scrap metal on the floor. Now, the layout of the house mimics that of Relvel's house, which is found right here in Pelagiad as well. It is not known what the purpose of this cell was, or why these items are here. It is likely just some kind of testing cell, but nonetheless it's quite strange that they would build an invisible house within the base game's landmass for an expansion's character, and then leave it in the game. And of course, this house only exists if you have the Tribunal DLC installed, or expansion installed I should say. This was pre-DLC. Now when we exit this house, we will be plopped right into the outer skirts of Pelagiad. And as we can see, or not see, the house is invisible and non-interactable. So you'd never know it was here, unless I showed you, which I did, so you know it's here. Now, while we're on the topic of game cells and console commands, if we type COC Mournhold Royal Palace, well, you'd think this would teleport us to the Royal Palace of Mournhold, but much like the Solstheim cell we saw in the Blood Moon Easter egg video, the name of this cell is very misleading, as when we hit enter, we will be transported to this blank black space, my soul. Now, with nothing but a single ruffian-looking imperial male known as the Shady Smuggler. That's my ego. Now, as weird as this is at face value, it gets much weirder, as this character, the Shady Smuggler, is labeled as owning just about all of the items that we can find in the game. Basically, any item that's found in the world that isn't owned by another character is actually labeled as being owned by this guy. So if you're out and about and come across something in a dungeon or a chest or a tree stump or what have you, it's most likely that that item is actually labeled as being owned by this guy, the Shady Smuggler. Now, in Morrowind, stolen items act differently than they do in Oblivion and Skyrim, as if you steal something in the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, it will only be an issue if you try and sell that item back to its owner. And because we never encounter this guy in game, him owning all of the items in the game is never an issue, as we can never sell the items that he owns to anyone who would know that he owned them. By the way, can we bring that system back, please? It's much more realistic. But this guy, overall, is very shadily strange nonetheless, and he may just be a precursor to Shady Sam in the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. But while we are on the topic of owning everything in Morrowind, within Godsreach, the westernmost sector of Morrowind's capital city, Mournhold, in which the Tribunal DLC takes place, we can find a rather large building known as the Craftsman's Hall, which is home to a number of services and, as you may have guessed, crafters. Now, upstairs we will come across two doors, behind one of which we will find a Breton noble named Detritus Caria. He is a very neat hoarder. Maybe it's debatable, he's more of a collector perhaps, but he only collects clutter items that can be found within the Dwemer province of Morrowind. And as we can see all around his house, there is crap everywhere. It's like going to the bric-a-brac section of a charity store. Now again, while he collects trash, it is admittedly all quite neatly displayed. Anyway, he will give us a quest called the Champion of Clutter, in which we have to collect a few more bits and pieces of otherwise seemingly worthless homewares to complete his set of Morrowind's housewares. Now, his first name, Detritus, is a reference to his Hoarder attributes, as Detritus is a word in real life that means waste or debris or junk of any kind, which is obviously a nod to the stuff that he collects. Junk. Well, in most people's eyes anyway. Also, his last name Caria might be a play on words as Caria, Detritus Caria. This guy is quite literally a junk carrier. I mean, with a name like that, he didn't have much of a choice in life, did he? Ah yes, now while we are in the Craftsman's Hall, when we enter the first main chamber, over to the right we can find a locked door that says, "Keep out!" Now behind this door we can find a small closet with a trapdoor at the bottom. If we head through this, we'll find ourselves in a secret room, where 4 Dunmer print the propaganda that can be found all around the city called the Common Tongue. In here we'll be jumped by the boss, Trels Varus, who will demand we explain ourselves. Now, one of the options is, I'm looking for the Eye of Argonia. This reference to the Eye of Argonia is an Easter egg, which we'll get onto in a second, but first it can be found somewhere else as well. As in the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, a book was introduced called The Ruins of Kemel Z, a very long tale, but right at the end we will see this. I imagined my return to the Imperial City, and I knew that this would be my greatest triumph yet. How could I possibly top this find? Perhaps it was time to move on. Recovering the fabled Eye of Argonia. Now that would be a coup. I smiled to myself, reveling in the glory of the moment, but already planning my next adventure. Again, the Eye of Argonia is referenced. Now both of these mentions are a nod to a cancelled Bethesda game called The Elder Scrolls Adventures Eye of Argonia. This project was canned after the commercial failure of the Elder Scrolls Adventures Redguard, and all of the focus and manpower of the studio was moved to the full production of the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind instead. Interestingly, there was also another cancelled game that I myself have only just now found out about. It was to be based in elsewhere, and get this, it was going to be called Paradise Sugar, which I'd assume was about moon sugar. Or just about me, because I'm so sweet. But back at the Eye of Argonia, I would assume it was to be based in Blackmarsh, or Argonia as it is known to its native Argonians. But in the Elder Scrolls Adventure Redguard, Cirrus, the player character, discusses the Eye of Argonia briefly with Tobias and Drekius, who describe it as the priceless king's jewel of ancient Blackmarsh that serves as a key to the lost city of Argonia. Now I don't know about you, but that sounds pretty dang interesting. Nonetheless, it was cancelled, and only lives on through these Easter eggs, as we've been left blind, without the eye. Now in the base game of Morrowind, there is a weapon called the Banhammer, which can be found on the corpse of a dead Imperial called Arlowe, who is lying on a small island at the center of the Azira's coast region of Vardenfell. Now, there was a forum called Something Awful, and no, it wasn't about my videos. Anyway, these forums were hosted by rich Lowtax Kyanka, who also went by the name Arlowe, where on his forums he would use the Banhammer to ban trolls on the site. So, here in Morrowind, we have Arlowe with his Banhammer. Now, building off of this, if we acquire the Daedric artifact called the Mace of Slurring, we can take it to the Museum of Artifacts in Mournhold City, found in the God's Reach sector. If we ask the owner and curator Torasa Aram about the Mace of Slurring, she will say this. It was crafted near the end of the Second Age by Kyanka, a slightly deranged Ultima weaponsmith and enchanter. He had a rather warped sense of humor and apparently delighted at the thought of reducing opponents to a gibbering mess before crushing them to death. The mace has admittedly seen little use. Now you may have noted that the mace's crafter was one Kyanka, that being a reference to rich Lowtax Kyanka, the same guy the Banhammer and Arlowe are in reference to. Now while we are on the topic of the Mace of Slurring, if this item is sold or donated to the Museum of Artifacts within God's Reach, the curator and owner Torasa Aram states it will take up a special place in our museum, somewhere upstairs perhaps. Somewhere dark as well. Now, I don't know about you, but this sounds like some pretty interesting stuff. Taking a rather dominating looking mace that turns the victim into a slurring, drooling fool is to be taken upstairs to its special place in a dark room. That sure sounds like fun to me. Tell you what, Terasa, you take the mace, and I'll meet you upstairs. Now, while we are here in the Museum of Artifacts, there is one more thing we're going to need to take a look at. And while this isn't exactly an Easter egg, it's definitely worth noting because it's ridiculous. Inside the Museum of Artifacts within Mournhold, we can find an item called Stendarr's Hammer. Now, this thing has a weight of 1,000. Now, in Morrowind, if the player character has a maximum strength attribute of 100, your maximum carry capacity will be 500. Now, that is half of the weight of this singular weapon. Now, you can boost the strength attribute and use carry capacity enchantments and the feather effects to increase your maximum carry weight, but you will not reach 1000, well, not without great time and effort and the abuse of a few glitches. So this hammer, Stendarr's Hammer, for all practical applications is impossible to use, and it also has an item health of 100, which means it will break within 1 or 2 swings, making it even more impractical, beyond its already impossible usability. Now this is actually kind of funny, because Stendarr is the god of justice, and his hammer cannot be used. So the hammer of justice shall not be swift, and justice will not be served. At least not with this meme of a weapon. I guess you could say Bethesda didn't nail this one. During the course of Tribunal's main questline, we'll get our hands on both the blade of the Nerevar, Trueflame, and the blade of Almalexia, Hope's Fire. While both the Dwemer artifacts, Hope's Fire and Trueflame, blaze away with licking flames engulfing their ancient-owned blades, Trueflame, and only Trueflame, has a specific mechanic which makes it throw light the same way in which a torch does. As we'll see in this dark location, Hope's Fire throws no such light, but when we equip Trueflame, it lights up the veiled void that shrouds the area around us. It's pretty cool because now you don't actually need a torch at all, and it's the only weapon in the game to have such an enlightening attribute, making it not only an extremely powerful weapon, but practically useful in general exploration. It also will not expire like a torch or a lantern does, so Trueflame is excessively useful. And yes, this is legit. It's lit even. It is true flame, which I've just snuffed out with that attempt at a joke. Now, within God's Reach in Mournhold, we can find a Nord barbarian called Thrud. Now, Thrud here in Morrowind is named after a comic strip character, which, as you may have guessed, is called Thrud the Barbarian, who was first conceived by Carl Critchlow in 1981, when he was given an assignment at college to create a comic strip. At the time, he was reading the Conan books, from which he drew the inspiration for Thrud the Barbarian. Now, you might know Carl Critchlow better for his works in Warcraft art and Magic the Gathering card art. But back to Thrud, the 5-page comic strip was first published in the fanzine Arc and Sword. Thrud was then to make a further appearance in the comic Deaded, which was created by Carl Critchlow and his friend Ewan Smith. Now, Deaded was never actually published, however, so I couldn't find a picture of it. But I did email Carl, who was very kind and helpful and provided us with this probably never before seen cover of his unreleased comic Deaded. So thanks Carl for that, that was actually really nice. Now in 1983, upon Carl seeing an advertisement for the White Dwarf magazine seeking cartoonists, Carl Critchlow submitted one of his Thrud the Barbarian comic strips. This led to Thrud the Barbarian becoming a monthly feature in the White Dwarf magazine between issues 45 in September 1983 and issue 105 in September 1988. Now, White Dwarf, of course, being a magazine dedicated to miniatures, or more specifically Warhammer. I have no doubt that we have all held and flicked through one of these at some point in our nerdom. Now, beyond this, Thrud then went on to get his own complete comic series, released between 2002 and 2007, around the same time as Morrowind and beyond. So that's a really cool and simple reference to Thrud the Barbarian. Now, speaking of barbarians, in the base game of the Elder Scrolls III Morrowind, we can run across a naked Nord barbarian named Botrir in the Gracelands. He was escorting a woman to Tel Arun when she turned on him and revealed herself as a witch. She put him under an unknown spell, then stole his clothes and left him standing here naked in the middle of nowhere. Similarly, we can find an almost entirely naked Nord barbarian called Hisin Deep-Raed in the West Gash region west of Aldrun. He too was escorting a woman across Vardenfell when she revealed herself to be a witch. She then paralyzed him with a witch's disease, stole all of his clothes, and left him standing here naked and afraid. And again, we can find a Nord barbarian called Hlomar Winesot, northwest of Caldera in the West Gash region. Apparently, he got a bit too friendly with a woman, who then revealed herself to be a witch. She then put a sleep spell on him, stole all of his belongings and clothes, leaving him stranded in the wilderness naked. Well, in Mournhold, the city introduced with a Tribunal DLC that's also the capital city of Morrowind, in the section known as the Plaza Brindisi Dorum, we can find our fourth naked Nord barbarian, known as Thorstag the Sweltering. One guess as to what happened to this guy, right? Well, he's actually got some funny dialogue in regards to what you're thinking, as when we talk to him, he will say, "What are you looking at? No, I'm not paralyzed. I've never even met a witch, much less been asked to escort one anywhere. Why am I naked? Because it's too damned hot here. You people think that every time you see a naked Nord barbarian, he's been tricked by some witch. So narrow-minded. Leave me alone." If we speak to him again, he will say, "I told you I don't need any help. I'm just trying to cool off a bit. I've never even seen a witch. You people and your stereotypes." And if we speak to him during the attack on Mournhold from the Fabricants, he will say, "Look, I don't know what's going on in this place. Monsters bursting from the ground, guards running around everywhere. This is lunacy. But you'll notice that I'm not blaming this on any witch, and it's still too damn hot around here." Of course, these pieces of dialogue are making light of all that we've learned by encountering naked Nord barbarians throughout Morrowind, from which he even calls us out for stereotyping him, which is fair enough. And which am I saying when I say which? Well, you know which one. Also, if anyone's got any free time, I've recently been paralyzed by a witch and I'm standing in the bush naked. Help. During the attack on Mournhold, when the fountain at the center of the Plaza Brindisi Dorum is shattered, revealing a portal down into the lost Dwemer facility of Balm's Armshend, we're going to head down into this because this is where we can find our next Easter egg. Now, inside this dungeon, there are piles of ash on the ground that tell us where the Dwemer were standing when whatever happened to them happened. Poof, they all vanished, and all that was left are these piles of ash. Now, this is important, as in here there is a section called the Hall of Whales, where we can find a pile of ash right next to the keyhole of this door. It could be so interesting that one would want to peer into a room. Well, when we open the door, we'll see that this is actually a bedroom, where over in the corner we can find a single bed with a table next to it and a bottle of spoiled Dwemer oil. Now, what is of particular interest is that this bed has two piles of ash under it, right next to each other too, suggesting these two Dwemer were very close together in a small bed. There is also a very conveniently shaped and smoothly baubled-ended Dwemer tube resting next to their ashes. I just cannot imagine what that's for. Now, the Dwemer oil on the table, when we open the console and click on it, its item ID is actually Dwemer lubricant. So we have a bottle of lubricant, a phallic object, two people touching each other in a very small bed, with someone spying on them through a keyhole in the door. Now, for monetization reasons, I just cannot figure out what's going on here. I'll have to leave that up to your imagination. And imaginations you do have. Leave a comment and give me your best and most colourful explanation of what's going on here. Ah yes, this next one isn't so much as an Easter egg as it is an uber secret that you need to know about, or maybe I just want to point out. It's also a blazing testament to why I love Morrowind and its hidden items, which are truly hidden when compared to modern titles. Now, in the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, there are two whole sets of Daedric armor. One is worn by Dwemer, who you'd have to kill or do some other trickery to get his armor off. Now, the second complete set has to be pieced together across all of the expansions. You have to go through dungeons, different lands, different quests, different factions, blah blah blah. It will, quite literally, basically take you the entire game to complete a set of Daedric armor just by finding the pieces as you go while playing the game. Now, much like the Daedric right pauldron that we found in the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind's Blood Moon Easter egg video, Tribunal is home to the only discoverable Daedric left pauldron in the game. Where do we find it? Well, sit back, relax, and enjoy this ride, and boy is it a ride. So, during Tribunal's main questline, the fountain at the center of the Plaza Brindisi Dorum will be shattered, revealing access to an ancient Dwemer facility known as Balm's Armshend. Once we enter here, we'll pass through the Hearthfire Hall and into the Passage of Whispers, at the end of which we'll make our way through to Radak's Forge, where we will find a door that leads to the Passage of the Walker. Here, there is a pile of rubble that we have to blow up with a Dwemer satchel pack to reveal a passageway to an archaic and forgotten Daedric dungeon known as Norenin Dur, which is a ruin more ancient than the Dwemer. It consists of a labyrinth of olden Daedric structures and mega caverns. Like the Grand Stair, a tesseractical mashing of rigid substructures, or the Teeth That Gnash, two colossal spires that dwell in the tallest singular cavern in all of Morrowind, rather oddly reaching for the skies above despite standing at the planet's core, or the Basilica of Divine Whispers, home to a strange selection of statues of the Daedric princes, with a variety of Daedra and Atronachs congregating and worshipping in this humid chamber, as Nirn's lifeblood weeps and gushes from the worn Aeonic tall stone bulwarks that have held the cavern open for countless ages and eras. But to realize what we are here for, we'll need to head into the chamber known as the Citadel of Mindurur. This is home to the unique Dremora Lord Tush Tijurur, carrier of the Pyroil tar needed to reignite the blade of the Nerevar Trueflame. And as interesting as this young chap is, what we'll need to do is turn back around and then look up to the dizzyingly high ceiling, where we'll see there is actually a mysterious mezzanine. Wedged into the highest walls of the cavern is a balcony comprised of ancient Daedric stone. We will have to use a levitation spell, enchantment, or potion to make our way up here, where we will find a door that leads to the ever-hidden and secret area known as the Wailing Delve. Once inside, if we leap over the edge before us, we will have a huge chasmous moor of deep rock, littered and clogged with smooth cataract stones that have been polished for millennia by the cold caress of the weeping cascades that wash down further into the solidified magma vent. As we delve into this mysterious abyss at the heart of the world, we'll see scatterings of items and bones, suggesting that someone fell down here, and, dare I say, someone with a pretty good set of items. We can find all kinds of glass pieces, along with a Daedric cuirass, which, while we're not here for, is definitely worth picking up, as there are only a few of these in the game. Further down, however, about a third of the way to the bottom of the Hydro Void, we'll find what we came here for, the only discoverable Daedric left pauldron in the game. Now, compare this to how you get Daedric armor in Skyrim. Which would you prefer? The likelihood of finding this just by playing the game is so slim, and I love that Morrowind not only had, but also had the means to have such jaw-droppingly hidden items in the world like this. And I love that it truly rewards exploration with the best items in the game. So this is truly a testament to the level design and discoverability within the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, the likes of which we really do not see in modern titles, and that's truly, to me at least, a damn shame. Honestly, if you have Morrowind installed, come to this place and see it for yourself. I cannot do the grandeur, scale, or creativity of this location justice. The vertical waterfall shaft continues down to a beautiful natural bottom where we can find more treasure. These hissing steam vents and also a very strange red lava pits that have blue flames spitting from within them. All in all, gee willikers, what a location. And the only place that we can find the Daedric left pauldron out in the world while questing and exploring. And now we are led to the final Easter egg in this video. So during Tribunal's main questline, we'll be sent by Almalexia to investigate a new religious uprising known as the End of Times cult. during which we'll be led to a Dunmer prophet called Eno Romari, who can be found within the westernmost sector of Mournhold, Godsreach. When we speak to him about his beliefs, he will have some very interesting things to say, which I do believe you will recognize as quite familiar. Our beliefs are very simple, dear friend. The Blessed Tribunal, though once filled with glory, are no longer the gods they once were. As with the tides and Tamriel's moons, all cosmic powers will wax and wane, but when gods die, it creates ripples throughout the lands. The passing of the three will be a prelude to the end of this era, and the beginning of the next. The followers of the end of times are making ourselves ready for this to happen. We realize that the end of the era will bring many changes. We believe that the gates of oblivion will open, and the multitude of Daedra will roam this world freely. Some might tell you that this is a good thing, that we are descended from the Daedra and it will bring a return to the natural order of things. I know differently though. The coming age will be a time of great horror. The Daedric princes are not our ancestors, nor are they our allies. They will wash over the land, destroying all that man and Myr have built over these thousands of years. The only protection from this scourge will be our true ancestors that have gone before us and watch over us even now. Many of our followers choose to participate in the cleansing to prepare the way for the rest of us. It is a sacrifice to be sure, but it is for the greater good. Now this is of course foreshadowing the events of the next Elder Scrolls game, The Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion, which came out 4 years after the Tribunal expansion for Morrowind. We saw something of a similar ilk in the Elder Scrolls III Morrowind's Blood Moon expansion Easter egg video, with the talking Farseer's skull of Oddfrid Whitelip, who also tells of the coming Oblivion crisis. So that's really awesome and truly makes me wonder if there's something of a similar nature in The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, telling us of what is to come in The Elder Scrolls VI. Hopefully there is an NPC in Skyrim that mentions no microtransactions or creation club. That would be nicer than me, and I'm so nice. Pff, who am I kidding, I'm a gooseberry. And with that prophecy of what is to come, we have now delved deep into all of the Easter eggs and secrets that I could find in the Elder Scrolls III Morrowind's first expansion, Tribunal. I do hope you have thoroughly enjoyed this nostalgic visit to Morrowind and learned of something new within the game. Perhaps this has even created a spark to replay it or get it for the first time. Whatever this video may have done for you, I do hope you enjoyed it. And if you know of anyone who would like this kind of content, be sure to share it with them. That would bring me great pleasure. And if you did enjoy this video, please leave a like, and if you have something to add or know of something I missed, be sure to leave a comment. Links to my other Easter egg videos that I've already done can be found down in the description via the playlist link. Now down there you may also find all of my social media links. Be sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram, along with joining our brand new Discord server. I'd very much enjoy seeing you there. If you would like to support this channel in a more personal way, you can do so on Patreon or join right here on YouTube, as I'm sure you know all of my time and energy goes into making these videos that I create for you to enjoy, so your support is most genuinely appreciated and welcomed in any and all forms. So thank you very much for watching, thank you very much for supporting my channel, and I will see you very shortly in the next video. I'll see you there soon.